The time is now 7 o'clock.
A key to improving the birth rate is letting people have the time to, really spend that time with families and take care of their loved ones. And a key to achieving this is to have workplaces provide work-life balance. We call it WED in short. And this comes in the form of various leaves, including a child or family care leave. But this system is something that may just exist in theory for some people, even those people who work for the labor ministry. If the very institution that is supposed to implement this work-life balance is unable to do so, what does this really say about the state of the balance in Korea? That's a big question that we're going to tackle today. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Wednesday, October 23rd on BEFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well and taking a little peek out our window at least. The good news is, thus far, I see light, right? Because remember, for the past couple days, it was like pitch black this time of the morning. So things are looking up and up already. Well, work-life balance, what about? This is something that we talk about so often, and it really is key to solving many social and demographic problems. This allows people to actually have a family and take the time to really grow and nurture said family. In theory, South Korea has a great and childcare leave system. That's like in theory on paper. Let's look at the reality. The problem is this: how much of all of these great ideas are getting implemented? That is the big question. So according to the Labor Ministry's numbers on 0% of the employees used their family care leave. 0. So this leave is for an employee to take if he or she needs to provide urgent care for family members. So that ranges from parents, grandparents, spouses, all the way to their own children. An employee is entitled, in theory once again, to 10 days per year. And for other public institutions under the Labor Ministry umbrella, the family leave utilization was under 1%. Under 1. So I'm going to let that sink in a little. So, when we expand this to the private sector, 59% of the respondents to a survey said that they could not make free use of these leaves or vacation days even when they were in urgent need, meaning they really needed to use those days, but they just, for whatever reason, felt like they couldn't. So lawmaker Kim Tae-sun of the Parliamentary Labor Committee said that these institutions should be setting examples. They should be, setting the bar, as they say, and call for this culture of being able to take time off to be settled in our workforce. So once again, on paper, in theory, we have it. But are we really able to use those days? Well, that is our main theme for today. Let's get to our text topic. So, during this season, fall, there are so many different fragrances or smells or scents that, you can kind of breathe in. But today's question is this: what sound or smell do you detest? Meaning you really, really strongly dislike or even hate. 자, 나를 소름 돋거나 인상 찌푸리게 하는 소리, 이 냄새. 이 소리만 들어도 절로 이렇게 인상이 찌푸려지는 거, 혹은 이 냄새만 맡아도 for me, 제가 싫어하는 냄새 맡으면 I hold my breath because I just can't. I'll just give you one example. I love Parmesan cheese, but I hate the smell of it that comes when you shake it. We all have Parmesan cheese at home in the little cylindrical bottle. I just can't. It tastes like, it smells like smelly feet. The taste not so bad. 근데 냄새가 발냄새 나지 않아요? 저는 그렇게 생각하고. So every time I have to sprinkle it on something, yeah, I just hold my breath. So send in your messages to BEFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So you go to that platform, search for BEFM or 부산영어방송. So subscribe first, log in, chat away with our other waivers. Also, on your phone, pound 9050, 샵 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. The good news is you can reach me for free through our Kakao Talk channel as well. Search for BEFM or 부산영어방송. Same thing there. And the ways you can listen to our program. I love the fact that we have so many different avenues. So first up on the radio, 90.5, 103.3 FM. That's, of course, if you're in the Busan area. We have many listeners who live outside of Busan. And you can watch us on YouTube right now. Live streaming. You can watch at your leisure. We have 2 apps that are available. The BEFM app itself, that's also free. And also our program is on the Patbang app too. Looking ahead to our morning together. It is Wednesday, so we have Leon coming in for hashtag fact check. So as the title of that segment tells you, she brings in something like a, we think it's fact. Is it? Is it not? Is it rumor? I don't know. Well, she checks out those things for us. And Jennifer with Skills 101, where she helps us with our interpersonal skills, whether it be at work or just with friends and family. And for a special interview today, there's been a lot of news regarding aeronautics and space, whether, it's NASA and its Europa Clipper mission or even SpaceX. We had that for Cat's Pick, right? Where the 5th launch of the Starship, the rocket went up and they were able to catch it literally with this steel arm. It was just so amazing. So we're going to dive into all that is the latest in terms of SpaceX Starship and also NASA's Europa Clipper. And I'll be back with today's headlines. It's now 7:07. These are today's headlines. South Korea vows phased measures to North Korea's troop deployment to Russia. South Korea vowed yesterday to make phased measures against North Korea and Russia and urged Pyongyang to immediately withdraw its troops from Russia. Yoon promises to consider personnel reshuffle if problems found. President Yoon Suk-yeol said that he would consider appropriate measures if ruling party leader Han Dong-won tells him who is causing what problems, amid criticism over staffers close to the First Lady. Number of regular workers falls for first time in 3 years in 2024. The number of regular workers in South Korea fell for the first time in 3 years in 2024. And the salary gap between regular and non-regular workers, employees, reached an all-time high. Police seek arrest warrant surgeon in 36-week abortion case. Police sought an arrest warrant for the head of obstetrics and gynecology hospital and the operating surgeon on murder charges for performing an abortion during the 36th week of pregnancy. BRICS leaders gather for stronger alliance in Putin summit. Russian President Vladimir Putin is seeking to exert his influence by hosting 36 world leaders from nations including China, India, and Iran as part of a 3-day summit of the BRICS group. And these are today's headlines. It's time to say hello to Haley. Good morning.
Good morning.
We can actually see the sky.
We can.
Yay, good news.
The sun's out, which I'm like, the sun? Haven't seen that in days.
I know. So today, before we dive into updates, we're going to talk about sounds or smells that you really strongly dislike.
Yeah, getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Number one, when I get a perm, And not on the day of because they will like mask it with like perfume and other products. But then
Yes.
when you wash it out,
The morning after.
the chemical smell that just stays in your hair for a while actually.
strong,
Yeah,
yes.
so strong. And then for sounds, I have so many. But you know when there's just a little bit of your beverage left in your cup and people use it to like slurp it with straws and it's a sound and I'm like, oh. Yeah, amongst others. Styrofoam rubbing. So whenever I open my 택배 boxes, when it's like fresh, whatever. Yeah, it's like, it's worse than nails on a chalkboard, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we have a better idea of what irks you, let's dive into our first update. So first, Daegu and Gyeongbuk agreed on this new special city merger. So let's talk about that. What does that mean for Busan and Gyeongnam?
Right. So let's keep in mind that we're not trying to foster competition or hostilities between regions, but just getting to the issue. So the metropolitan city of Daegu and the surrounding Gyeongbuk or North Gyeongsang province, they earlier this week agreed to merge their governments, at least the administrative aspects, by
Yes.
July of 2026. So they would be deemed a special city with a status equivalent to that of Seoul, so 특별시. So this new government would be named the Daegu Gyeongbuk 특별시, the special city, and they'll be granted functions of establishing, supervising, coordinating, and executing comprehensive plans for economic and industrial development, amongst others. So, and this happened actually with the government's active mediation between the two municipalities. Well, here's the thing. Busan and Gyeongnam have been for the past several years in talks for their own merger.
Okay.
And here are the concerns though, it's timing and priority. That's why while we're not looking for competition, it is an urgent issue because TK, Daegu Gyeongbuk, now has the headway on the issue. And Bulgyeong, which did begin discussions earlier, but they
Right.
reached an impasse and now is at the risk of losing its momentum. Especially, this was supposed to be like the Bulgyeong megacity, but Ulsan had pulled out of the discussions.
Right.
So with the TK region taking this first step, other municipalities in the Chungcheong and Honam regions, they're also expected to launch their own discussions about these mergers.
So big question is this, where are we on this whole merger between Busan and Gyeongnam?
Right, so things are being approached cautiously. Let's get that out. So to get public consensus and also to do the job right.
Yes.
But there has been delays because Gyeongnam had just recently gone through the national sports competition, so they really couldn't focus on this issue. And by the way, this is an administrative merger which will secure them a higher budget and authority and autonomy. And there's also the opinion, though, if you're looking at it from a glass half full perspective, because the TK merger is raising public awareness, this could then prompt a change in public opinion in favor of the merger.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on this. It's important. It pertains to us. So let's move on and talk about the fact that we love most things about fall. This one, maybe not so much. I'm talking about the ginkgo fruits on the ground, the smell of the 은행나무.
은행나무, 은행열매.
Yes.
Yeah, I call them the little bombs on the ground. And like, don't step on them. Just
Yes.
avoid them.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, local governments and the city of Busan, they don't seem much in a hurry to do something about it.
Okay.
So the thing about these ginkgo trees, 은행나무, they are very resilient and they can grow in urban conditions and they're excellent air purifiers. So
Yes.
we love them as a fruit. We
As
love
a
them as
tree.
a tree, except I don't love the fruit. The fruit they bear. Although some people will eat them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also
It's
a
a
thing.
thing, yes.
Right. But the thing is, they're very smelly when they fall on the ground and people in cars step on them and it just gets messy. So to be fair, here is what Busan City and the municipalities are doing.
Okay.
Busan City is currently working on harvesting the ginkgo fruits early on across the city. So they'll have these catch nets around the female trees and they'll even use vacuum harvester to get the fruits off the trees.
Ooh, but some point out that compared to other metropolitan areas, maybe it's not quite enough.
Right. So we're going to throw up a visual. It's a photo credits to me. So I was on the bus and I took that photo because I was baffled because if you look at the net, it slopes down and it doesn't cover it 360 degrees.
Right.
The front part of the net is it's lower, it's open. So all the fruits just it slid down. So it was basically turned into a ginkgo slide. as opposed to a catch net. And I was like,
what's the point of that?
and you see how messy the roads are. And actually, the bus had the windows. Everybody had the windows open. As soon as we entered that strip of the street,
Yes.
the windows were shutting. We're just like, smelled so bad. Anyways, that's just
Yeah.
as a private citizen, I reported it. The city has launched a project to kind of fundamentally get to this issue because it is the female trees that bear fruit. But here's the thing. At the sapling stage,
Yes.
we can't tell them apart, male and female. So you just have to kind of wait until they grow enough to bear fruit. So the smelly
Hope and
ones.
pray.
Exactly. So the city is working on switching these fruit-bearing female trees to male ones.
Okay.
But not fast enough. So there are over 9,700 female trees in Busan. They've gotten to barely 500 in the past 3 years.
Oh.
On the contrary, Daejeon City began doing the same project back in 2016, and they have finished and replaced, completely finished the replacement in 2 of their districts.
Oh.
Seoul City has an independent service within districts that immediately address the issues within 24 hours of calls coming in. In Busan, by comparison, it's sanitation workers who are in charge of this during their regular working hours.
So it's like their regular work plus this.
Right, and by the way, their regular workload is, it's taxing and it's
Yes.
physically heavy. Right.
Well, hopefully they can get like a little task force going.
Right, yeah.
The Ginkgo Tree Task Force. That's what we're asking for. For our final update, we are entering the future. We're there already. We can get food delivered via drones. I mean, this is real. It's coming.
Right, it's happening
Yes.
right now. So at least during this test period at Busan Citizens Park, so Busan Techno Park is running a 5-day test period for drone food delivery.
Okay.
And it's a part of the Trade, Industry, and Energy Minister's project. So there are 2 spots within the Citizens Park, one by the fountain and the other one at the participatory garden,
Okay.
참여의 정원. And you use a designated app, and there are signs for that all over the park to order from the Citizens Park food group or the food court, and they'll deliver it to you on a drone.
Nice.
And delivery fee is, this the best part, free because it's a test period. So Busan City said it is seeking out ways for new business models and involving local companies, and it'll provide support to these businesses to not only increase consumer convenience but also drone safety for future uses.
All right. Well, we're going to call it a wrap on the updates. So thank you for that, Haley. Back to you, the listeners. So here we go. We have, for a text topic, sounds or smells that you detest, that you really dislike. 나를 소름 돋거나 인상 찌푸리게 하는 그 소리. And I don't want to hear ahead of time. I don't want to hear like my wife's 잔소리. 그런 소리 말고요. Like, like real sounds or 냄새. The smell just like, can't just get away. Well, that's what we're looking for. And so here is your traffic and weather. It is now 17 past the hour. Here's your traffic report. So apparently this is a report from, 태진님, a 4-way car accident right by the Mandak Cathedral, and is causing massive backup from the Mandak Tunnel to the Namhae Expressway. Thanks for that heads up. Also, congestion on the Dongso overpass going out of the city from Bumneko ramp. And please take note that the top portion of Gwangan Bridge and Apek로, Gwangan 해변로, 민락 수변로, 수영 강변대로, and parts of the 수영교 will be closed off at various times this morning because there's a marathon. As for the weather, it's currently 18 degrees Celsius. It's a bit cloudy. The sun will make an appearance later on in the day for a daytime high of 22 degrees Celsius. The temperature has dropped a little bit, right? And today is Sangang, one of the solar cycles that signals chillier mornings with frost coming down. Looking at the weather nationwide, rain is forecast for parts of the central region and Gangwon. So yes, it's expected to stop in the morning. Anyhow, this was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? for all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
This is News Digest, and we have Haley in the studio where we're going to go over the top news from around the world. So first, we have North Korea, which has officially denied its troop deployment to Russia. They deny it. However, the potential alleged evidence, it keeps on kind of surfacing and mounting.
Right. So for North Korea's part, its representative to the United Nations vehemently rejected the notion that North Korea has or is sending troops to Russia. However, evidence says possibly otherwise. So number one, it's a pro-Russia Telegram account. It has posted a photo showing the Russian and North Korean flags side by side on a Ukrainian battlefield. And this then indicates that North Korea likely sent troops to support Russia in its war with Ukraine. So this particular blogger said that North Korean flag has recently been raised on a hill at a mine in this one city. And it's one of the suspected locations where North Korean soldiers are believed to have been stationed. However, this doesn't necessarily present concrete evidence.
Right.
And because number one, the photo any photo could be doctored at this point. But even if it were true, it could just be a decoy to confuse Ukrainian forces and decrease their morale without having the physical presence of soldiers there. But then evidence number two, possibly, there were reports by the Ukrainian military saying that North Korean soldiers who had been deployed to Russia had deserted. And they were caught. So these are 18 North Korean soldiers. Apparently, they weren't given any food nor any orders for days. So they left the forest to fend for themselves in the border area near Bryansk, Russia. And they deserted and then they were caught.
So that's what's going on there. So we will continue to report on the developments because this is quite important, of course. So, as South Korea's average age gets older and older, there have been these calls to raise the age at which, a person is considered a senior citizen.
Right. So that age is, of course, 65. But we might know 65-year-olds who are, you're not senior.
Yeah.
You're not the elderly. You're more active than I am.
Exactly.
Right. So the latest call to perhaps increase the senior age came from the newly inaugurated president of the Korea Senior Citizens Association, Mr. Lee Jung-gun, who also serves as the CEO of Buyong Group. By the way, if at least the company sounds familiar, this is the company that gives like 100 million won to its employees for having children.
Yes.
Anyways, so at the inauguration ceremony earlier this week, Lee said that the current senior population is at 10 million and it's expected to double by the year 2050. So he then proposed increasing the age at which one is considered senior by 1 year every year. So under his proposal, it'll be 66 next year, 67 the year after, so on and so forth. Ultimately, raising that to 75 in the next 10 years.
I see.
And then this will reduce the number of legal seniors by some 8 million people. So then the aim is to lengthen the period at which one can be in the workforce until they have to retire.
Sure.
And have that 65 to 70 age group kind of serve as the social buffer. In terms of the economy and their economic activities suddenly coming to a stop. So he added that for his own company, he will start applying that policy and lengthen the retirement age. Of course, there are board meetings to go through, but if that's possible.
Yes, so things might be headed that way anyway, as the number of seniors in the workforce, it's like at the highest ever.
Right. So the number of newly hired people aged 60 and above is the highest, not just for that group ever, but out of all age groups.
Sure.
So Statistics Korea and the Ministry of SMEs and Startups, they reported yesterday that 272,000 more people 60 or above newly found employment last month compared to the same period last year. So this means that 6.74 million people in the age 60 and above group, they're working. So this is a huge number.
Sure.
So that also means that there are more people in their 60s and above working than those in their 50s And that's considered to be kind of the the period at which you reach towards the end of your career height.
Yes.
So it's certainly interesting. And the older group, the senior group, were also more active in opening their own businesses, with there being 13,000 businesses registered under these individuals. So change is definitely coming already, as the Interior Ministry and its affiliated organizations, they've extended the retirement age for public officials, at least in their groups, from 60 to 65.
Yes. So definitely this is something that does affect us, or is going to affect us, right? All right. Well, our next story is this. It's somewhat related to the issue of an aging society. Death. It is a part of life. It is inevitable for all of us, and experts are actually addressing the issue of quote unquote a good death.
Right. So 좋은 죽음. What would that be? At an age where you're deemed old enough, perhaps in good or decent enough health, you're comfortable, and you have maybe tied, all the loose ends with your family.
Hopefully.
So the National Evidence-Based Healthcare Collaborating Agency, 한국보건의료연구원, they released 7 principles and 16 guidelines on good death for our society. So this is based on consensus reached via expert discussions at their latest roundtable session.
Okay.
So what are the 7 principles of a good death? Number 1, to provide human-centric end-of-life care service. The second is to establish these end-of-life care plans ahead of time. So that's really important for us individuals. Third, guarantee the patient's right to choice. 4, provide holistic and comprehensive care services. 5, prioritize the patient's comfort.
Yes.
6, respect the patient's preference and request. And 7, increase national investment for these programs.
I see.
So definitely reasonable enough. They cover kind of perspective from the government. So going further into detail, it should prioritize one's values over technology and have the patients and their families have conversations, no matter how uncomfortable it might be, about these issues with input from their doctors ahead of time while they're in sound health and mind.
Yes.
So these guidelines come as the number of deaths has exceeded the number of births, and that's been happening in the country since 2020. So we have more people dying than that are born. And experts said that in this aging society, the topic of quality death is a one of public interest, but that we just don't have good institutional foundations and therefore called for preparations.
Yes. But, these principles, something to really think about, not just from government policy, but just generally speaking.
Right.
As we all age. All right. For our final story, we're going to go to Lebanon, where Israel claims that there are millions of dollars buried under a Hezbollah bunker.
Right. So Israel has accused Hezbollah of keeping hundreds of millions of dollars in cash and gold in a bunker under a hospital in the southern suburbs of Beirut.
Yes.
And it did say, though, it will not strike the complex, at least for the time being. Israel didn't prove concrete evidence for the claim that there's cash under this particular hospital. Instead, it did publish an animated graphic that reportedly shows a bunker under the hospital that's been used to supposedly protect and keep the former leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah. And Israel therefore appealed to the Lebanese government to confiscate that money, and they're saying that the Hezbollah organization that stole from the Lebanese people. Actually, here's the thing, though. This isn't the only claim of this purported excess of wealth that's been affiliated with leaders of the Axis of Resistance. So we're talking about Hamas and Hezbollah. So recently, according to CCTV footage that Israel released, a wife of deceased Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, she was apparently spotted carrying an Hermes Birkin bag. Yeah, that Birkin, which is estimated to be worth about $32,000 on her way out of an underground tunnel. Now, this footage, Israel claims, was taken last year, the night before the October 7th attack. However, the authenticity of this is it's up for debate because other people on the internet are saying it's clearly not a Birkin, which is one of the most expensive bags
it's like a car
in the world, I suppose. Right.
Yeah.
But Israel has used this footage to argue that while Gazans endured hardship under Hamas, Sinwar and his family were shamelessly living in luxury, indulging while sending others to die.
Yes. So that's the latest we have on this front. But we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And with that, we are ready for our first song. And I want to mention just one message from Ida who says, smell of cigarettes and 잔소리 싫어해요. 잔소리가 영어로 뭐죠? And so whatever other listener said, it's either nagging or whining. So I'm wondering though, nagging from whom? 누구의 잔소리가 그렇게 싫을까요? Anyhow, here is our first song. This is Seasons by Wave to Earth. And this is requested by 가보자고 Waver.
Be your love. Look is too trivial for you now. All my life is falling apart. Maybe no one will notice if I disappear. But I'll pray for you all the time. If I could be by your side, I'll give you all my life, my seasons. I can't be your love, 'cause I'm afraid I'll ruin your life. Wild to leaves withered away and grew again. You have gone far away. I'll be pushing up daisies and bring all the chances to heal. But I'll pray for you all the time. If I could be by your side, I'll give you all my life, my seasons. By your side, I'll be your seasons.
All right, let's go back to our main topic at hand, today's story, we're talking about some of the issues underlying South Korea's persistent low birth rate problem. So we just addressed the whole work-life balance issue. But let's go back even further. There is the problem of young people looking for this so-called golden ticket. So this is in reference to this phenomenon, the golden ticket syndrome, mentioned at the Presidential Commission on Low Birth Rate. This is basically when young people are vying for really good jobs, quality jobs, aka the golden ticket, and that's at least partially delaying them getting married and having children. So that's one facet of this issue. Officials from the Low Birth Rate Commission proposed bringing up this age at which young people enter the workforce as a possible solution to the low birth rate. But this is going to have to go hand in hand with quality jobs and those jobs allowing for conditions conducive, meaning helpful to having children. But ultimately, I think it's the mindset of people. Do people want to have children? And can we really push people to do so? Like, can we force that down someone's throat? Is, I think, the bigger question at hand. Anyhow, let's take a look at our text topic today. We are talking about sounds or smells that you really detest, meaning you really dislike, hate. 나를 소름 돋게 하는, 인상 찌푸리게 하는 그 냄새 혹은 소리. So I'm getting both on the board, so thank you so much for your participation. So going back to the top, we have, first of all, Benny. For the smell of fire, especially when burning leaves. He does not like that. For sound, maybe loud ones at night, especially when there's an unexpected usage of 노래방 machine. What? Does it not depend on how good the quality of the singing is? Or maybe you just don't like the sound of it late at night. So that could be bad. 가보자고 Waver says, I hate 콧물 먹는 소리, 가래 뱉는 소리. So basically, like, you know when you have like a runny nose and then you kind of like inhale the snot, I can't even do it on air. The sniffing, like, inhaling the snot. And spitting, they really dislike spitting, like, the phlegm, the mucus. They don't like that sound. Actually, yeah, the visuals on that, not great either. And also, let's see. Leslie says, the smell would have to be the smell of someone who is unbathed. 샤워 안 한 사람. And they cover it up with a strong perfume or cologne. 샤워를 안 하고, 향수 아니면 그 컬론 좀 진하게 뿌리시고, or the worst body odor covered with patchouli or sandalwood. So basically, any kind of bad body odor covered up with a very strong scent. I feel ya, Leslie. Let's get to Kat's pick for today. For today's Kat's Pick, trigger warning. So if you have young children or of topics of sexual assault or child abuse really bother you, you might want to turn down the volume for a couple minutes. So this ongoing saga, Sean P. Diddy Combs, or whatever he goes by these days, there are 7 new civil lawsuits. And I don't even know what the total number is at this point. This one in particular, really, really troublesome. And here's a clip from GMA.
The lawsuit says Diddy's driver invited the alleged victim to an after-party, telling her Combs liked younger girls and saying she fit what Diddy was looking for. At the party, the lawsuit says the teen accepted a drink and went to lie down, feeling woozy and lightheaded. Combs allegedly grabbed the teen, saying, "You are ready to party." The lawsuit says the teen was sexually assaulted by a male, identified as Celebrity A, while Combs and a female, identified as Celebrity B, watched. Combs then allegedly assaulted her, while celebrities A and B watched. The new civil lawsuits accuse Combs of sexual assaults over more than 2 decades, from 2000 to 2022. Alleged victims include a then 17-year-old male who says Combs molested him at a party in New York, and a man who says Combs assaulted him at a party in Los Angeles. The man says he took this photo of the vodka Combs served him to document the alleged encounter. Combs' legal team did not directly respond to the new allegations, but pointed ABC News to a prior statement that says the truth will prevail, that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. And overnight, attorneys for Combs also asked the judge overseeing his criminal prosecution to silence the plaintiffs in these civil lawsuits, who they said have made shockingly prejudicial and false allegations of sexual assault and abuse of minors. Guys.
Just extremely troubling claims there.
So once again, that was from Good Morning America. And as you heard, and I gave you that trigger warning, unsettling, all of the allegations against them, but this one in particular of alleged child sexual assault. So we'll see where this goes, but I have a feeling that this is probably not the last that we're hearing of all the lawsuits. People are literally coming out of the woodworks. Women, men, and children. And this was Cat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for Leon for Hashtag Fact Check. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine.
Hey, so before we jump into what you've brought for us today, I want to know from you and the listeners, the waivers, they want to know, what sound or smell do you detest?
I want to ask you guys if you know what this smells like.
Okay.
Do you guys know the smell of rotting rice? Rice. Have you ever smelled it before? Does no one know?
See, our producers say no, because she
And you
doesn't go
don't-
in the kitchen.
She's like, you cook rice?
She's looking at us
What?
like,
She's like,
this
I
is
don't
her
know.
look. I wish we had a camera.
I know. She's
The look on her face, she's like, what's that?
쌀? 그거 먹는 거 아니에요, 그냥?
그냥 엄마 마미가 주면 먹는 거예요.
시즌 보면 그냥 먹으면 뭐 rotting이 왜 있나요?
Right. I think
You've never?
I know.
You know, like
Yeah.
real rotting.
I don't know about the real rotting, but after like a few days,
weeks.
Weeks.
So I had a traumatic experience.
I don't know about the weeks, Leah. I can't get on that
You
boat.
can never forget. I don't know if our listeners know, because this is when
몇 주?
I had a traumatic experience when I was young.
Okay.
So I went to a field trip, and my mom cooked me some rice, and I had leftover, and I had like put it in my school locker for the longest time.
forgot?
And then I forgot, and then 2 weeks later I was like, "Oops, what's this?" And I was like, brought it to my mom, and she opened it, and we were like. Screaming. And so I forgot about that smell for the longest time. Recently, my daughter went on a field trip, and I had given her some kimbap and some other banchans. Oh,
The
that
smell?
Yeah, she had it in her bag for like a week at the bottom of her bag, and I was like, 이거 뭐야?
It was like fermenting.
Yeah, it was.
이거
The
가고 있었어요?
fermenting rice smell is like unexplainably sour and 고약해, and it's just I don't know.
Tommy says, I know that smell.
It's so
Yes.
it's hard to imagine because you
It's
can't
so
imagine.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well, now that
That's
we're
unforgettable.
thoroughly disgusted and ruined everybody's breakfast,
Yes.
let's dive into what you have for us today.
Yes. So for today's topic,
Yes.
it is it's something that's been a growing concern for many people.
Growing
Maybe
concern? What is it?
perhaps somewhere around our age or around my age or
Your
perhaps
age,
older.
really? Okay, what is it?
It is hair loss.
Oh, hair loss.
Hair loss.
Oh.
And with all the information floating around how
Right.
to deal with hair loss, it is quite hard to know what's real and what's not.
Yes.
Whether it's men or women noticing more strands in their combs or showers. So there is a lot of fear that comes with it, which is why I felt like it's important to bust some of these myths and bring in the facts. So let's discuss hair loss today, because not everything you hear about it is
How do we say it in Korean? 머리 빠짐?
탈모.
탈모. 머리는
Obviously, you have no problem with this
No,
because you
no,
don't
no,
even
no.
know the terminology.
No, actually, I can tell you personal stories, but once we get into it, I will.
Okay.
And this is it can be a touchy subject.
It
not
could
just
be.
for men. This is not a men-centric topic.
Yes.
Because I experienced it when I was going through a lot of stress. I was losing hair.
Oh, you were.
To the point, like, my family members were like, they were buying me like imported, like specialized shampoo.
Oh, I
that
see.
like would supposedly grow your hair back. It
Because
was real.
Your family members, it's evident if on the floor you can
They
see
were
so
really
many
worried.
hair. Yeah.
They made me
it's-
go to the doctor to see if there was something else wrong
Oh,
with me because it
no.
was so It was just like covered.
And
the
it was
bathroom floor.
the reason was stress,
It
right?
was stress, right.
Yeah. Same with my husband as well. So let's talk about the one fear, which is
Yes.
does washing your hair often lead to hair loss?
This is a good question.
This is a good one.
Yes.
Especially for my husband because he refuses to wash his hair more than once a day because he fears one more streak of hair will fall. He struggles with hair loss. I don't
by
think he
the
will
way-
like me telling me this.
but-
By the way,
Isn't he a doctor? Like,
he's a doctor.
okay,
yeah.
no, because
He
I'm saying
he takes medications on his own, but
Oh.
he just feels like
Oh,
he
if
has
you-
this excessive fear. Well, he doesn't specialize in the
in that hair,
in the
in the hair
time
loss.
Oh, yes.
time, right?
He just wants his hair in his
Yes.
scalp.
We all
But-
do.
Well, the fact is
Yes.
that Dr. Isak Lim from the Theme Dermatology clarifies for us that washing hair frequently does not cause hair loss.
Okay.
In fact, in many
Yes.
cases, it can actually help protect your hair because if your scalp, it produces oil, sweat, and accumulates dirt and pollution from the environment, of course. If that is left unchecked, it can clog pores and create an unhealthy scalp environment. So what's really critical is how you're washing your hair.
So there's a proper way.
That is a proper way. And so are you using a gentle, balanced shampoo? Are you being too rough on your scalp? Are you like over scrubbing your
I think my
scalp?
roommate is overdoing it. He
Okay,
has
then
like
he
this-
shouldn't take a shower more than once if he's overdoing it.
To me, like I see him sometimes, I'm just like between like the chainpyo, like the brushing
Yes, that's
teeth,
what I was exactly thinking about right
and
now.
then like he has like a special brush that he uses in his shower,
oh,
and like I feel like
my mom has.
it's
I
too
thought only
much.
grandmas do.
And the thing is, he has a full head of hair, but he wants
Oh.
to keep it that way. It's like preventive, proactive,
Yes.
because he doesn't want to see the hair.
He's very. He probably thinks the reason why he has that amount of hair is because of that too. You know what I mean?
Listen,
But
roommate.
let's
Yes.
all the husbands out there, including my husband. So over scrubbing and or using harsh products can irritate the scalp, and that would lead to or even contribute to hair loss.
Okay.
But the act of washing your hair itself,
Yes.
that is not the problem. So. After I did my research on this, I decided to replace my husband's shampoo with a more gentler one.
Okay.
And I will confidently tell him if it looks greasy at the end of the day, even if you
Wash
took a
your
shower
hair.
in the morning, hey, use that
okay.
gentle shampoo.
Okay.
Be gentle on your scalp. Go ahead and wash those oils off.
Oh, so it's definitely about like the technique, gentle.
It's the check technique and just the gentle shampoo as well.
Right. So I'm assuming we should just be using our fingertips and not that brush that you're using in the shower, right?
That is true. So
Okay.
let's avoid the overly harsh chemicals. And also, Dr. Yi mentioned that people with oily scalps might actually benefit from washing more often. And the key is to maintain a clean, balanced scalp. So let's not fear the daily wash.
Okay.
So moving on to our next myth.
Yes.
A lot of people think, you mentioned this before, that women also struggle
Yes.
with hair loss, but there is this myth that it's only men, mostly men,
Mostly men, right.
that need to worry about hair loss.
So is this a myth?
That is a myth.
Okay.
That is false. Hair loss, it does have a strong genetic component to it, but it's definitely not something only men experience.
Yes.
Women can and do actually experience hair loss. The thing is, it just manifests differently. You know, while men often have that receding hairline or the, let's not laugh.
Yes,
No, it's
I
not something to
know.
be laughed about.
It's not.
It's very serious.
It's a part of.
You laughed. I'm sorry.
I'm only laughing at my husband.
All right. We're
Only
laughing at our husbands.
Only at our respective husband, not
Yes.
your husband, just mine.
Yes. Okay. Thinning at the crown, women usually experience more diffuse thinning, which means the hair becomes finer all over.
그러니까 가까
It
이게
becomes thinner
얇아져요.
and it
맞아요.
starts to
Right,
break apart. And
Right.
so it's less visible
Yes.
than men for sure, but they also experience it as well. So Dr. Yug told us that female pattern hair loss is a real thing, and it can be especially noticeable after life events like childbirth. We all been there.
Yes.
Or menopause as well.
Right.
So hormonal changes can play a huge role in triggering hair thinning in women, but the genetics of hair loss are more complex than just being male or female. Both men and women can inherit those genes, and it's not something you'll notice just when you're entering your 40s or 50s because some people actually start seeing signs in their 20s and 30s as well.
That young?
That young as well.
So it does feel like I know, I'm glad you're breaking that myth because like the conversation with like, let's say even taking like medication or the road thing or whatever medication that you might be using, topical or oral, whatever it is, it's usually around, the conversation is usually around men.
Right.
But it's not necessarily true, right?
It is not necessarily true. And actually, it's surprising because if you talk to, men in this case, in my experience, in their 20s, they already start taking hair loss preventive medications.
Yes.
Because they know what's coming. So the trend is the age is getting younger and younger, which I thought was pretty shocking. Like in your 20s already.
My, roommate's our son.
Oh, your son. Why are you saying roommate?
No, they together religiously take this like vitamin supplement together every day. They pop one, that vitamin, the bio thing. Yeah, to, and I'm
prevent it.
I'm like,
they're very serious about this hair loss.
Right. Thing. They're on this like crusade, like we're going to keep our hair.
Right,
They're serious about it.
But that's a kind of a big trend among the 20s MZ generation. So it's not, they're being smart about it, I think.
Yes.
So, next thing, one more question I want to ask. So, how many hairs do you think we naturally lose in a day, Catherine?
I don't know, but even today, as I was, drying my hair, and then my little thing is I dry my hair and then whatever curling iron equipment I use, and then I put it away, and then I always look at the floor.
Right.
Because like, the night before, somebody cleaned it. Bless his soul. It's clean. So I know it's my hair.
Yes.
Because I'm the first one who took a shower. And then I always think like, that's quite a lot. If I had to count each one individually, what's the average number?
It's, I actually went to a salon recently and asked because I felt like I was getting hair loss because I was seeing so much hair
everywhere.
Like you, every time after blow dry my hair.
Right.
And because now we're entering autumn, I was like, is this a seasonal thing? Like,
I know,
is it
shedding like
after
the
summer, like my scalp was unhealthy and now am I shedding? But apparently, according to Dr. Mark Glashofor, who's a New York-based dermatologist and a fellow of the American Academy of Dermatology, he explains that we lose 50 to 100 hairs on a daily basis.
Every day. That's normal.
Every day. This is normal. So 100. When I heard that number, I was like, oh, okay then. I don't think I can count to 100,
Right.
So that happens. And there is a little bit of a seasonal thing, but that's a myth. It's not to the point where we can say we are shedding too much hair to be problematic. But one thing that we should worry about is the matter of summer UV exposure.
Oh, really?
Yes, that does lead to a bit of a hair loss. It could.
Okay.
Because those strong rays from the sun can damage not only your skin, but also your scalp and hair as well. And if your scalp is skin, it's part of your skin too. And if it's exposed to UV rays, it can cause hair to weaken and break. So that is why Dr. Glashofer recommends wearing a hat or using an umbrella when you're out in the sun for long periods. And you know that there's that myth where if you want to prevent hair loss, don't wear a hat.
Is that true?
Let your scalp breathe. That is false. Apparently, when there's so much UV shining at your scalp, it is better to actually protect your scalp by you putting on a hat. I mean, yes, it is important to let your scalp breathe and, be in open air. But
if it's really hot.
If it's really hot and you're under direct sunlight, experts do advise putting on a hat.
People are commenting.
What are they
People
saying?
are saying, I really worry more about my memory loss than hair loss, says one person. And then someone else says, let's just all be bald and free. I don't know.
Let's be free of this problem.
I'm not ready to let go of the vanity of my hair. Are you ready?
I'm not ready.
yet.
I'm not ready.
It depends if you have a good head shape, right?
I do not have a good head. I'm very flat.
No. So really, really quick though, you know those the hair loss shampoos?
Yes.
We're going to end it with this. Yes or no? Do they help?
Well, according to the Korea Food and Drug Administration, short answer, no.
No, okay.
let's
The answer
not
is
be
no.
fooled by those hair loss shampoos, but those medications.
Yes.
The really famous ones
Right.
that starts with Menno, Dick something. Those actually work, but those over-the-counter medications work. Shampoos, let's
so
not
much.
be fooled.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you for breaking it down. Very interesting and informative. We'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Leon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, it is time to, wrap up our morning together. This is 잔소리. This is by IU with 수롱. So enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
술은 멀리 좀 해봐 10살짜리 알처럼 말을 안 듣니
정말 웃음만 나와 누가 누굴 보고 아이라 하는지 정말 웃음만 나와
싫은 얘기 하게 되는 내 맘을 몰라
좋은 얘기만 나누고 싶은 내 맘을 몰라
그만하자 하나부터 열까지 다 널 위한 소리 내 말 듣지 않는 너에게는 뻔한 잔소리
그만하자 사랑하기만 해도 시간 없는데
머리 아닌 가슴으로 하는 이야기 네가 싫다 해도 안 할 수가 없는 이야기
그만하자 너의 잔소리만 들려
밥은 제때 먹는지 여자 멀리 하는지 온종일을 네 옆에 있고 싶은데
내가 그 맘인 거야 주머니 속에 널 넣고 다니면 정말 행복할 텐데
둘이 아니면 안 되는 우리 이야기
누가 듣는다면 놀려대고 무슨 이야기
그만하자 하나부터 열까지 다 널 위한 소리 내 말 듣지 않는 너에게는 뻔한 잔소리
그만하자 사랑하기만 해도 시간 없는데
머리 아닌 가슴으로 하는 이야기
받는 바로 이곳 부산에서 우리의 삶은 축제가 됩니다. 축제로 하나 되는 부산. 여러분은 어떤 축제를 기다리시나요? 이 캠페인은 대선공익재단과 BFM 부산영어방송이 함께합니다.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
부산 글로벌 도시재단 대표이사 전용호입니다. 부산은 대한민국의 굳건한 성장 동력으로서 물류, 금융, 영상, 관광, 문화, 디지털 첨단 산업의 중심지인 글로벌 허브 도시로 나아가고 있습니다. 이를 위해 부산 글로벌 도시재단은 부산을 대표하는 도시 외교의 플랫폼을 지향합니다. 세계 평화도시 부산의 브랜드를 강화하는 부산 UN 위크와 부산 글로벌 도시 포럼, 유라시아 도시 외교단, 개발협력 포럼, 그리고 세계 시민축제는 부산의 소프트 파워의 상징으로 자리매김하고 있습니다. 부산영어방송도 시민과 함께 영어하기 편한 도시, 세계와 경쟁하며 더불어 살아가는 부산을 만들어가겠습니다. 시민이 행복한 글로벌 허브 도시 부산, 부산 글로벌 도시재단이 함께합니다.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is News Highlights. South Korea vows phased measures to North Korea's troop deployment to Russia. South Korea's National Security Council, or NSC, vowed yesterday to take phased measures against North Korea and Russia over their deepening military cooperation and urged North Korea to immediately withdraw its troops from Russia. The NSC said that the development poses a significant security threat to both South Korea and the international community and is a blatant violation of UN Security Council resolutions. In the meantime, North Korea's Kim Yo-jong slammed South Korea and Ukraine for what she claimed was a military provocation against Pyongyang, likening the two countries to bad dogs bred by the U.S. Yoon promises to consider personnel reshuffle if problems found. President Yoon Suk-yeol said that he would consider appropriate measures if ruling party leader Han Dong-hoon tells him who is causing what problems amid criticism over staffers close to the First Lady. Yoon apparently made the remark during a meeting with Han Monday, where Han raised concerns about the First Lady's public activities and urged a personnel shakeup at the top office. At the meeting, Han reportedly mentioned the names of 8 officials in the presidential office who inappropriately meddled in state affairs and explained their acts of misconduct. Number of regular workers falls for the first time in 3 years in 2024. The number of regular workers in South Korea fell for the first time in 3 years in 2024, and the salary gap between regular and non-regular workers reached an all-time high. The number of regular workers came to 13.69 million as of August, down by 147,000 from a year earlier, according to the data from Statistics Korea. The number of non-regular workers, including part-time workers, those on temporary contracts and outsourced laborers, rose by 337,000 on year to 8.46 million as of August. Police seek arrest warrant for surgeon in 36-week abortion case. police sought an arrest warrant for the head of the obstetrics and gynecology hospital, OBGYN hospital, and the operating surgeon on murder charges for performing an abortion during the 36th week of pregnancy. The police launched an investigation in June after a video surfaced on YouTube of a woman getting an abortion during the 36th week of her pregnancy and claimed she did not know about her pregnancy until that stage. The warrant hearing for the two doctors will take place today. BRICS leaders gather for stronger alliance in Putin summit. Russian President Vladimir Putin is seeking to exert his influence by hosting 36 world leaders from nations including China, India, and Iran as part of a 3-day summit of the BRICS group. One of the main aims of the summit will be to speed up ways to reduce the number of dollar transactions, to reduce the U.S. ability to use sanctions as a political tool. Chinese President Xi Jinping greeted Putin as his dear friend, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for a quick and peaceful solution to the Ukrainian conflict. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has confirmed his attendance despite ire from the West. And this was News Highlights. It is now time for issue waglwa글. So Haley's back in the studio with us.
It's that time.
That's right. So let's dive into our first story. As a parliamentary audit continues, well, so do the controversies over witnesses. So this time around, the CEO of Adidas Korea, or Adidas, was reprimanded for speaking in English with a translator. So why was this controversial?
Because just the year before, he spoke at the same parliamentary audit in Korean.
Oh.
Actually, let's just take a listen to the clips. I've compiled 2 clips. The first is his statements from last year, overlaid with what happened recently.
Okay.
본사에서 생각하기에는 좀 시급한 문제이고 이런 거를 우리가 당연히 점장들을 배려를 하면서 구조조정이 좀 필요하다. 투명하게 우리가 어떻게 이 제도를 가져갈 건지 그래서 그 설명회가 있었습니다.
작년에는 한국말 하던 분이 올해는 한국말을 못 합니까?
Yes, Honorable Congressman, thank you for the question. And if I may first, the reason why I'm choosing to use a translator this year is because I was very uncomfortable with my ability to fully respond to questions last year. In addition, I felt like there was a risk of perjury, which is obviously a very serious
Right. So by the way, that clip at the beginning bit was from JTBC. So let's get into the background. That was from the parliamentary audit session into the Fair Trade Commission. So they had summoned the CEO of Adidas Korea, Peter Kwok, as a witness because Adidas Korea is facing allegations that it had shut down over 100 franchise stores and had its headquarters sell the goods directly and refused to renew contracts with some 80 franchise store owners.
I see.
And also another witness to this session was the head of the Nationwide Franchise Owners Association. So he was summoned last year and we heard his Korean seems fine. But unlike last year, Peter Kwok brought an interpreter and he spoke in English, as we heard.
Yes.
So that the man in the middle, the one who objected to his speaking English was the Rebuilding Korea Party lawmaker, Shin Jang-sik. So as to the reason why, he did say he was afraid of perjuring himself. And that's what he was afraid of last year. And that's why he brought the interpreter. Well, number one, some comments say, and it is true, you get 7 minutes to speak in the sessions to answer questions. So some are saying, well, is he buying time because interpretation, it does eat up a significant amount of the 7 minutes. So is he trying to not answer the questions or trying to shorten the time? And the Franchise Owners Association chief said Kwok has never had troubles communicating with them in Korean before. So they're wondering as to the timing. On the other hand, I think many people who are bilingual, no one's 100% native or fluent at each language, at both language, on both platforms or different levels.
Yes.
Some people might have different comfort level with one or the other language. So they're saying that, well, in that case, maybe this particular case seems odd, but, if you have non-native Korean speakers, is it always going to be a problem if they bring in interpreters? So some are understanding of this language issue. Others are saying when we factor in the other issues of what happened last year versus what language he speaks during business meetings.
Sure.
Right. That's why it's very wagle-worthy, controversial.
It is. I can see both sides. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for him.
Right.
So, yes. All right. Let's move on, though. This issue, okay, so we all know that, Han Kang, her books are basically flying off the shelves, especially at the big bookstores, right? So Kyobo Book Center, one of the country's biggest bookstore chains, is asking its customers to not buy Han Kang's books from their stores.
Right, and you brought up a good point that people are flocking to these larger stores to buy Han Kang's books. And of course, this is after she won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Well, because your neighborhood small and independent bookstores just don't have them in stock, not for lack of trying.
Yes.
So Kyobo Book Center, Kyobo Mungo, had been under fire from some of these smaller book retailers for allegedly hogging the chain, the supply chain of Han Kang's books after this Nobel Prize-fueled reading frenzy. And by the way, I don't mean that like derogatively. I am still a part of that frenzy.
Yes.
So here's the thing about Kyobo. It is, number one of the country's biggest book retailers, 소매상, but it's also a wholesale supplier, 도매상.
It is?
It is.
Oh,
that's why, because there are other large bookstores, but it was targeted to Kyobo because the other bookstores are not suppliers. So this is a vertical integration issue going on. So there had been criticism that this book retailer and supplier was hogging the supply it provided to its own stores and preventing the books from flowing into the mom and pop smaller bookstores, so kind of shutting out the rival.
Yes.
Upon this, Kyobo posted the sign that you just saw on its Gwanghwamun branch that for the sake of mutual coexistence with the local bookstores, it is temporarily reducing sales of author Han Kang's books from its stores between the period that started yesterday to the end of this month. So they said during this period, please visit your local bookstores to buy Han Kang's books.
I see.
So that means during the 9-day period, local bookstores will get a larger supply, specifically an average of 17,000 books per day.
Okay.
And Kyobo will distribute 15,000 of them to the smaller bookstores, so keeping only about 2,000 for itself.
Yes.
So netizens welcome this decision.
Yes.
That it is, it's a good example of, no matter how it may have started, good example of a larger company making a bold move towards mutual existence. Because there's a Korean saying that goes 물 들어올 때 노져라, which means when you have, row away, meaning make as much money as you can while the water's coming in. So that means to seize the opportunity. But some netizens commented that Kyobo seems to be choosing to kind of flow in line with the tide rather than, working against it or trying to maximize its profits.
Yes. So once again, if you're still, looking for her books.
Actually, so I did order a handful of her books from this particular chain. But then after seeing this article, I went to some other local bookstores and they are getting supplies in like today and tomorrow. So I put another order in. So I'm just swimming in books.
Just waiting.
All
right. Up next, let's ask our waivers is, what would you do if your appliance started swearing or yelling obscenities at you? Oh, 욕을 해요?
욕을 해요. And I mean, it's one thing if your spouse or sister or sibling is nagging at you. That's one sound that you don't want to hear.
But nobody should be cursing at you.
But, well, I mean, you don't know you don't know. Sometimes it's warranted. But what if it's your robot vacuum cleaner that starts swearing at you? And this has been happening throughout the U.S. Because some people have hacked into this particular robot vacuum cleaner brand to, number one, scare pets and curse at the owners. I don't know whether to be terrified or maybe no one was hurt. No one's been hurt. But according to ABC News, all of the hacked vacuums were from the same brand and model made in China. Apparently, this model has a critical security flaw that basically allows hackers to bypass the 4-digit security PIN. So the pin is there, but not really doing anything. So some owners, including a lawyer from Minnesota, Mr. Daniel Swenson, he reported that his robot vacuum cleaner started to make strange noises. So he went to the app and changed the password and rebooted the vacuum. And then the speakers began to emit a human voice and shouted racist.
Oh.
Yeah, racist obscenities, which I'm like, ugh, that's where... I mean, the line was crossed a long time ago, but
that's beyond.
Yes. Another robot vacuum, same brand in LA, started chasing a dog and shouted other offensive comments. A few days later, similar incident in El Paso, Texas. So it's kind of happening all over the country.
And just, we even have that science experiment like that everybody does in middle school, like yelling at the plants and not yelling at the plants. But can you imagine the trauma that it will,
I mean... And that's just so, like, your home is being hacked into. And I laugh at that because I did that exact same science experiment.
Yeah, the experiment, right.
And the other one,
but this
listen
is
to
not
classical music.
Matter.
But no, I mean, the company, by the way, it is coming up with an update that'll boost its security, but that's going to kick in November.
Oh.
I mean, so in the meantime.
Just shut it off.
Yeah, just unplug it.
Well, final topic for wa글와글. If you are super organized or are trying to maximize your vacation time, you might want to look ahead to next Chuseok.
Yeah,
which
is next October, so like a year. So yeah, bypass 설날, save your money, and jump to Chuseok.
Okay.
Because everybody else is. So let's look at virtually next year's calendar. So the Chuseok holiday for next year goes October 3rd, which is Friday, is 개천절, National Foundation Day.
Okay.
And then the next 2 days, 4th and the 5th, Saturday and Sunday. Chuseok holiday falls the next Monday through Wednesday, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then what's on the 9th? Hangul Day. It's like the universe it's a gift from the celestials. But then
not for us though.
Well, I mean,
we'll probably be live for most of these
we are going to be. So if you take October 10th off, which is a Friday, save your vacation day, then you get the 11th and the 12th. So you have a nice 10-day holiday.
Wow.
I know. I'm like choking up just thinking about it and how we're going to be
here. It
here.
doesn't pertain to us.
It doesn't.
So
that's why I'm choking up because I'm going to be here. So already the flights are selling like hotcakes. Prices though. I mean, usually if you get tickets a year ahead of time, you're going to get massive discounts. Don't count on it because they're apparently double to 8 times the normal price.
Okay.
So for one, Korean Air's Hawaii and Guam flights leaving on October 3rd already sold out. For the 4th, set at 1.8 million won, 180만 원. And I'm like, are these first class?
Ticket?
Yeah, for flight tickets to Guam. And that's double the price from this week.
Okay.
Round trip tickets to Da Nang in Vietnam, 8 times the usual price. However, this might be a temporary thing because there are only a limited number of tickets available right now.
True.
If we are a year out. And flights haven't been set yet for that particular season. So with time, there will definitely be more flights available. I mean, how much the prices are going to go down, that's a supply and demand issue.
Indeed.
And demand is definitely high.
Well, it's okay. It doesn't pertain to us.
Send us photos.
Send us a postcard.
I like chocolate. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so we'll
send us postcards.
We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Everybody, this was Haley. And now back to you, the waivers, for your updated traffic and weather. Yes, it's now 8:17, and it's time for your updated traffic. So there's an accident on Busan영로 coming into the city right at the Mangmi ramp. And apparently there's been a collision between a trailer truck, and a car. Please be careful of this area. Be aware. Slow on Daedong Hwamyeong Bridge from Hwamyeongdong to Daedong. Also, congestion on 충렬대로 from Minam intersection to Mandok Tunnel number 2. It's also backed up on 중앙대로 from Samjeon intersection to Seomyeon intersection. As for the weather, it's currently 18 degrees Celsius. It's going to go up to just 22 today. However, the good news is I see a little bit of sun peeking out from behind the clouds. The temperature has dropped somewhat. So today is also 상강, one of the solar cycles that signals chillier mornings with frost coming down. This was traffic and weather. this is Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra.
Sun is shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud in sight. It's stopped raining. Everybody's in the play. And don't you know, it's a beautiful new day. Hey, running down the avenue. See how the sun shines brightly in the city. On the streets where once was pity, Mr. Blue Sky is living in the day. Hey, Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Where did we go wrong? Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Where did we go wrong? Hey, you with the pretty face, welcome to the human race. A celebration, Mr. Blue Sky's up there waiting, and today is the day we've waited for. Oh, Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Where did we go wrong? Hey there, Mr. Blue, it's a place to be with you. Look around, see what you do. Everybody smiles at you. Hey there, Mr. Blue, it's a place to be with you. Look around, see what you do. Everybody smiles at you.
Wavers, let's address our text topic one last time before we get into our special interview. So I was asking you today, sound or scent or smell that you really detest. So Hisuk Waver says this, and this is her message, not mine. I can't handle smelly feet, and I cringe at the sound of lightning. So 발냄새 싫어하고요. 그리고 the sound of thunder, I'm thinking, is probably what she meant. 그러니까 천둥 그 소리가 너무 싫다고 한대요. 그래서 인상 찌푸린다고 하시고요. Also, Young Waver says this. Young, he says, the most irritating stench is the smell of spoiled perfume. Try it, you'll see how bad it is. You'll end up vomiting. Well, I don't want to think about vomiting right now, but spoiled perfume? I don't know. That's like a new one for me because I do squirt only one squirt of perfume in the morning. But Haley insists she can smell me like a mile away, but I only squirt once, I promise. But I don't know. I've never had spoiled perfume. That's an interesting one. Anyhow, for now though, we're going to get to our special interview. I'll be back in just a moment. Last week, NASA's Europa Clipper mission launched with the ambitious goal of exploring whether Jupiter's moon, Europa, could harbor life. The spacecraft will travel approximately 2.9 billion kilometers over the next 5.5 years, reaching Jupiter, they say, in April 2030. And not too long ago, also, SpaceX, with its fifth Starship vehicle, achieving that groundbreaking feat of, did you watch the footage of that where they had that arm out and they kind of caught the heavy booster upon its return to the launch site? That was pretty amazing. So these missions, I think, show great advancement in space exploration. Let's find out more. We have invited to the airwaves Professor Joshua Caldwell, Pegasus Professor of Physics and Associate Dean of the College of Sciences at the University of Central Florida. Hi, Professor. Thanks for joining us.
안녕하세요. Hi, how are you?
Oh, my goodness. 안녕하세요 to you as well. I know you're in Florida. I do want to ask, so is everything okay with you, your campus, your family? Milton, were you not affected?
Thanks very much. Yeah, so the university was closed for most of the week because of Hurricane Milton, but we fared fine. Thank you.
Yes, that's good to hear. So first up, this primary goal of the Europa Clipper mission, what exactly is the primary goal? And why Europa? If you can explain it to us in layman's terms, please.
Sure. So the basic goal of this mission is to understand whether or not Europa is a habitable world. And the reason that we're asking that question about this moon in particular is that we know from previous observations that there is a subsurface liquid water ocean beneath an icy shell at Europa, that water erupts onto the surface, and there have been observations of geysers or plumes coming out from the interior of that world. And so where there's liquid water and a source of energy, which there is for this moon as it is sort of stretched and pulled by Jupiter's gravity that provides some heat in the interior. If there are also the necessary ingredients for life, it might be not only a habitable world, but a world where there is life at this time.
Oh, that's pretty amazing though, to think about that. Not just is it habitable, meaning can things live there, but do scientists really think that there is life, that potentially life might exist on Europa?
It's certainly possible, and it's a very serious question to pose. But that's why we're going there, to find out how likely it is. Europa Clipper will be studying the surface of the moon, the environment that it's orbiting in. It has instruments that will actually be able to measure the composition of material that is knocked off the moon. If there are plumes, it'll fly through those plumes and sort of sniff those plumes and figure out what they're made of. And determine whether or not they're the basic ingredients for life there. We won't be able, I'm afraid, to answer definitively whether or not there's life in that subsurface ocean, because we're not actually going to go beneath the surface. We're going to have to rely on what Europa gives us by its natural geological processes of putting material from that subsurface ocean onto the surface, and then that amazing set of scientific instruments that the mission has to to analyze those materials and see what's there.
I see. So speaking of those scientific instruments, if you can just tell us a gist of what we're looking at.
Sure. Yeah, so it's got 9 main instruments on the spacecraft, and this is a very large spacecraft, by the way. It's the largest interplanetary craft that we've ever launched. And those instruments are sort of a set of cameras that look at different wavelengths of light or different colors. So there will be some amazing pictures that we'll be seeing, as you mentioned, when we get there in 2030. And some of those cameras are looking at light that we can't see with our eyes, but that tell us things about the temperature and about the composition. And we'll be looking in particular for organic molecules and things like that, or warmer regions, which suggest that maybe the water is closer to the surface. And then there's another set of instruments that will be measuring the environment that Europa is in. What are the charged particles in Jupiter's magnetosphere and how they're affecting the surface? And then again, any material that's knocked off the moon, hopefully we'll be able to fly through and actually get a taste of what the surface is without actually having to land on it.
Wow, it boggles the mind, though, the fact that we are this advanced in technology where I know it's going to take 5.5 years to get there, but the fact that we'll know, hopefully within our lifetime, more about Europa.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So
yeah, no, it's a real it's a detective project in some sense. There's all these different clues, and you pick up all sorts of different measurements in different ways and piece it together, and then you're able to assemble a picture that tells you more about what's going on, what that world is like.
Yes.
Very exciting mission.
So in your opinion, Professor Caldwell, what do you think is kind of possibly the most exciting part of this mission? Because you gave us the logistics and spoke about some of the instruments, but I'm sure for you personally, you're thinking, I want to know this. I hope they come back with some sort of finding on this.
Well, we haven't gotten, it's just part of it's just going to be the amazing views that we're going to see of this world. It is a young surface. We think about the moon. We can go outside and we can take a look at the moon with the naked eye or through binoculars and see a bunch of craters. And it's looked that way more or less unchanged for billions of years. But for Europa, it's constantly resurfacing. And so there's going to be all sorts of interesting landforms that we'll have never seen up close. And then the spacecraft will be flying within, I believe, 25 kilometers of the surface of Europa. Very, very close, if you can imagine navigating a spaceship from that great distance and flying that close to your target at those great speeds. And so what I'm really hoping is that we will see eruptions or geysers or plumes coming from that subsurface ocean that will be able to fly through that material. There's a similar situation with the moon of Saturn that the Cassini spacecraft studied. And I'm really hopeful that we'll see that same kind of activity at Europa and that there will be some surprises in there. We have our speculations about what there will be. But the most exciting thing about science is we have our set of questions and we think we're going to figure out the answers. But then when we're working on answering those questions, new ones pop up, things that we hadn't considered before. So it's the unexpected that I'm most excited to see come back from this mission.
Indeed. And we have a question from one of our listeners, Professor, and it is pertaining to what you just mentioned about, potentially geysers and whatnot. So Leslie asks, if there are geysers bringing water to the surface, will they be able to obtain water samples to see if there is microbial life in the water? Are they going to try, or is this just, yes?
Right. Yeah, we won't be going down to the surface on this mission. So everything will just be a flyby at very high speeds. And if there are those geysers that are putting material out into space, it is possible that the spacecraft can fly through that material and it'll sample it, but it won't be like droplets of water. It'll be individual molecules or ice grains or grains of other molecules that are mixed together with ice. So think of tiny ice crystals, and the instruments on Europa will break those apart and analyze their composition. But we won't be seeing, even if a microbe did come out, we wouldn't be able to identify it as such with the instruments on the Europa Clipper.
I see. Thanks for clarifying that one. And if we can take a look, switch gears just a little bit, because at the beginning in the intro, I did talk about, the Europa Clipper, but also SpaceX, because we all saw that footage. Pretty amazing. I was like, is this real? Is this for real? Because,
Right.
And it was
very
so
science
amazing.
fiction.
Yes. The rocket, it blasted off, and then it came back, it was doing a reverse, and then, the arms, and, they're calling that the Mechazilla robot arm, and Koreans have dubbed it chopstick arms. I mean, because people are so interested, fascinated by what happened. Can you explain this recent flight test?
Yeah, so this is as you mentioned, a flight test, integrated flight test 5 of SpaceX's Super Heavy Starship combo. And there's kind of two different aspects of that we're interested in. One is that NASA is relying on that architecture and the Starship, the upper stage of that rocket that SpaceX has developed to return astronauts to the surface of the moon. So that is the planned landing vehicle for NASA's Artemis project, which is the follow-on to Apollo. So we need to see that working, and we need to see a lot more successful flight tests. There are many more steps to go before we see that landing on the moon. But also, as you saw, bringing that giant booster, 70 meters tall, back to the launch pad, catching it with the chopstick arms, and then being able to basically refuel it and launch it again once they get that all worked out. In principle, that makes launching very large things, including groups of people into space, much more affordable and something that can be done more frequently. So it's definitely very exciting. It was an amazing feat of engineering and technology to see that, and it's going to be very interesting to see the subsequent flight tests that we have for that, and hopefully the idea is making space more accessible.
Yes, and speaking of that accessibility, I mean, the use of these reusable rockets, for example, like with SpaceX's projects, the long-term plans for space exploration. I mean, does this all fit into, of course, the budgeting? Because we all know NASA, lots of cuts in terms of budgets, right? And so we have these private firms now. I mean, they go hand in hand, do they not?
Absolutely. And it stands to reason that if you don't have to build a new rocket every time you launch something into space, that's got to save money. Of course, it's still a very challenging activity, and it's very risky. Very high energies are involved. So if you're putting people on board, it's a very risky endeavor. So it's still, we're not at the point yet where going into orbit around the Earth is going to be like taking a flight from Korea to the United States, for example. So there's a long way to go before we get to that level, just because of the physics involved. It just requires much more energy. But it is bringing costs down. We're seeing far more launches now than we were 10, 15 years ago. Even during the space shuttle era, which was a reusable launch vehicle, there have been such great strides made in reusability of launch vehicles that it is transforming the way we utilize and take advantage of space and the final frontier.
Yes, indeed. And for our final wrap-up question today, Professor, how does all of this, aside from the aesthetics and us being wowed by all these clips, how does this benefit us in the long term as just average citizens here on planet Earth?
There are a tremendous number of benefits that we're getting from the space environment and space economy already that we sort of take for granted. GPS, the fact that we can know exactly where to go anywhere, that relies on satellites,
right?
A network of satellites. SpaceX and other companies are developing Wi-Fi satellite networks that are bringing Wi-Fi accessibility to people that would otherwise not be able to get it, including in areas you mentioned, the hurricane here, that can wipe systems out. If you've got a satellite view and a satellite receiver, then you can have access to that sort of thing. There are also discussions about mining materials, getting materials that are rare on the Earth and retrieving them from asteroids. And, in the longer term, we think about things like space tourism. I said we're not yet at the point of going from the United States to Korea in an airplane, the same as going from here to the moon or going to a space station. But that is becoming something that is more imaginable, that people could go into space. And I think, just as a sort of final note, I think one of the most important things that people going into space has as a benefit for all of us is what's called the overview effect, which is realizing how thin and fragile our ecosystem is, how thin the atmosphere is, how vulnerable it is. And there's nothing like going up above. It's only a few tens of kilometers to get above the atmosphere, and then discovering that there are no political boundaries down there, and we have a very fragile environment. So I think space provides us that kind of view that we don't otherwise get.
Right. Thank you so much for not just all the technical aspects, but providing us like this insight, this overview effect, something that we can really think about today as we kick off our day. But thank you so much for your expertise and for this interview, Professor.
감사합니다.
감사합니다 to you as well. This was Professor Joshua Caldwell, and we talked about the fact that like aeronautics and space, sometimes we think is, so far away, sci-fi, doesn't really relate to me. It does indeed. Things he mentioned, GPS, satellite systems, just accessibility to all of that. And as he says, the overview effect, very important to our personal lives as well. And this is our special interview. Let's take a song break. This is Fly Me to the Moon. This is by Julie London.
Play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. And let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
it's time for Skills 101. We have Jennifer here. Good morning.
Hello.
I don't know, this music always brings a smile to my face, and you're always smiling too. So it's like, puts me in a good mood on this hump day. We need it. Yes.
That's right.
You know, today, real quick, we're talking for a text topic about smells or sounds that you really detest, like you cannot stand. So any sound or any smell or just like...
Well, the sound, I can think of one.
Yes.
Sound of chewing gum. You know, people sometimes they chew gum and make this noise.
It's like the...
Jack, jack, jack.
Yes. Oh, you don't like that.
I can't stand that.
So when you're around Jennifer, chew your gum quietly.
Yeah,
please. I got it. All right, so let's dive into Skills 101. What do you have for us?
Okay, today I want to talk about a tool from positive psychology called the ABC model.
Ooh.
It was originally developed by psychologist Albert Ellis as part of his rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT.
Okay.
The idea behind it is to help us understand how our thoughts shape the way we feel and act. It's a really useful tool for both personal and professional life.
Oh, okay. So first, let's go back to the whole, ABC model. I'm sure it stands for something, though.
Yeah.
It's not just like ABC, right?
So ABC stands for adversity, belief, and consequence. The idea that when something happens, that's the adversity.
Yes.
The event takes. That's the adversity. It triggers a belief or thought about the event. That belief leads to a consequence, which can be an emotion or behavior.
Yes. So when we talk about adversity, I looked it up. I don't know if this is it's kind of like 역경 or 불행 or something that pops up that's not that great, right? Okay, so how do we interpret it though? Because it's not like the adversity itself that necessarily directly causes how we feel, but things that come out of that.
So let's break it down with an example. So imagine you're giving a presentation at work.
Okay.
And during the presentation, someone criticizes your idea. Or even online, even on air, you make corrections.
Yes.
When I present something. And that's the adversity, the A.
The A. Okay.
Right.
Better picture.
I can, so that's the adversity. And now how you respond depends on your belief. The B, if you think, they must think I'm terrible at my job. Catherine is correcting me because I'm saying something wrong,
I try not
She thinks
to.
I'm wrong, So you're likely to feel upset or anxious, right?
Yes.
But it's if your belief is more like, you're just offering a different perspective. She's just trying to help me. The consequence C will be very different. Maybe curiosity or even confidence to address their point.
Ooh, this is really important because, if you're thinking, she's just criticizing me versus, she is correcting me, so now I have a better understanding of this.
Exactly.
Then the C will be different.
So different. Exactly. That's where positive psychology comes in. It's not just about pretending everything is great, but rather learning how to challenge those negative beliefs that don't serve us.
Ooh, okay. So we now understand the A, B, and the C. So how can people start using this ABC model in their daily lives?
We have to get into habit. So one way to start is paying attention to your thoughts when something goes wrong. When you notice yourself feeling upset, frustrated, or even angry, pause and think. What belief is driving this emotion?
The B.
B. Then
the B
ask
belief.
yourself, is there another way I can view this?
I kind of like that because sometimes we just get instantly irritated or angry or upset or embarrassed,
and you start imagining, and
it's a slippery slope, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So pause. So instead of letting the negative thoughts control you, you stop and kind of question them.
Exactly.
Got
it. It helps us to take back some control over our emotions. Because sometimes it's so easy to lose our emotions, right? Lose ourselves and act strangely.
Okay, what's another way? Another example?
Let's say you send a message to your colleague or your family member and they don't respond for hours or for a whole day. That's the adversity.
That's
or
annoying.
A. Yeah. And you might have the belief that they are ignoring you or upset with you for some reason. They have no respect for you, you know.
I have been in that situation where I was kind of annoyed. I won't say who, but at the station, I sent in a message. It said that they had read it. So I was kind of like, well, why aren't they responding then? Because I needed an answer. I was waiting so I could move on to the next step. And then it turned out, so I gently asked again, and they said, it was open on my desktop, but I wasn't there, so I didn't see it pop up. Which is a perfectly reasonable explanation, right?
Sure. So, and then the belief could lead to consequences like this, you know, like frustration or anxiety.
Yes.
You might start thinking, what did I do wrong?
Yes.
Or they might not like me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why should I responding?
Yeah. But what if you challenge that belief and thought, maybe they're just busy or maybe they're in a meeting.
Sure.
Or they can't answer me. The consequence will be a lot different. Like your example,
Yes.
You probably feel less stressed and more patient.
Right. It does make sense. But in the heat of the moment, because if you don't pause and kind of think it through, you might jump to the wrong conclusion.
Exactly.
But like as Jennifer said, to kind of pause and then to think about it. And, you know, there are other reasonable explanations.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with practice, it becomes easier to catch those automatic negative thoughts and signs and reframe them into something more positive.
Yes. Well, that is a really good life skill that we can put to use. I think not just for like work, but I think just any area of life with your personal friends or your family members.
Yeah, totally. And the great thing is the more you practice, the easier it becomes.
Okay.
Like everything else.
Yes.
It's like you're building a muscle. You get better at recognizing those negative beliefs and replace them with more helpful, more positive ones.
Yes. So now that we have a better grasp of this, what is your kind of key takeaway from everything that you've shared with us today?
Okay. The key takeaway is that we can't always control what happens to us.
Yes.
Right? But we can control how we feel and how we think about it. By challenging our beliefs and reframing our thoughts, we can change the emotional and behavioral consequences for the better.
Oh, yeah. So it's something that we can start practicing like right away.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to happen to us, the ABC today, for you know, in one way or another. So when it comes, I guess, you know, we can definitely try it.
We can't control situations, right?
Yes. For any final words?
Yeah, actually there is. When we interpret situations negatively and get angry, we are really only hurting ourselves, not others, you know. Anger causes our heart rate to increase, which isn't good for our cardiovascular health. But even more importantly, getting upset doesn't solve the problem. And the other person isn't affected at all. And so for the sake of our own health, it's crucial to adopt more positive interpretation of situations.
Interesting. Yes, yes. Well, this is absolutely doable. Just take a little pause.
Yeah.
You know, regroup, think about all the possibilities and to try to get that negative thinking out of the way.
Let's try that.
Yes, we will try, at least for today. So,
yeah, okay.
Thank you, Jennifer, and we'll check in with you next week.
Okay, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Everybody, this was Skills 101. And, you know, I was also thinking about all the smells and sounds, not just from what you, the waivers, were sending in, because there were so many messages as well. But I did a little quick search before actually we went on air. And according to one site, this is an American website, they say the top 5 smells that people cannot stand. They did a mini survey. So at number 1 was skunk 냄새. Number 2, mildew smell from the laundry. 빨래 할 때요, 그걸 빨리 안 빼거나 그 뭐 세탁기 청소를 제대로 안 할 때 그 약간 꿉꿉한 그 냄새 있죠. That was actually number 2. And sometimes I forget to move from the washer into the dryer quickly enough or take it out. You get that smell, right? Number 3, according to this survey, was the smell of cigarettes, smoking, which I saw quite a bit on our board today. Common. Number 4 was the smell of gasoline. When you go fill up your car, that smell really irked a lot of people. And number 5, the smell of dog or cat urine. That's according to this top 5 survey that's in the United States. This was a site that I found on Google, so I wanted to give the exact source of where I got it from. Some from G News. So whatever your favorite or maybe not so favorite, the smell that you detest, I hope that we are able to maybe, especially to other people, not be so rude and saying, hey, you smell or you stink. I guess we're going to have to do our best to avoid them or maybe hold our breath just a little bit. So anyhow, today it is a little cooler. The temperatures have come down, but it is a little windy. Some people were texting in saying it was windy today here in Busan. So wherever you are, whether you're in Korea or in other parts of the world, I wish you the best today. Final song for today. This is You by Super Junior as per Benny's request. I wish you a lovely day, everybody. Bye-bye.
좀 보게 되었어 널 원하지 않고 견딜 수가 있을까 그렇게 쳐다보지 마 너와의 게임을 아직 시작 안 했어 나에게서 다 놓쳐봐 너의 이상형 찾아봐 줄 테니 그 남자가 내가 되게 해줄 테니 Cause I can't stop thinking about you girl 널 내 거로 만들 거야 No I can't stop thinking about you girl 내 우리 안에 가두고 싶어 보였던 우유빛 피부 긴 머리 끝에 남아있는 향기와 나지막한 목소리로 날 공격하니 날 이길 순 없어 yeah. 너에게 보여준 매질 빨간 장미 속에 숨겨둔 반지를 줄게 그 주인이 네가 내게 해줄 테니 Cause I can't stop thinking about you girl 너와 함께 있고 싶어 No I can't stop thinking about you girl 난 여기 두고 가버리지 마 Cause I can't stop thinking about you girl 널 내 거로 만들 거야 No I can't stop thinking about you girl 내 우리 안에 가두고 싶어 너의 낯선 향기에서 추억을 떠올려 바라보는 그대로 눈빛이 내 심장을 울려 지우려 해도 소용없이 끝도 없이 너를 향해 달려 내가 그대를 갖겠어 너를 이기 위해서 모든 걸 다 걸고 전부 잃게 된다 해도 이미 게임은 시작됐는 걸 잘 알아도 이제 너의 남자는 바로 나란 걸 말고 안달하게 만들 테니 Cause I can't stop thinking about you girl 너와 함께 있고 싶어